let's do a very interesting effect. Like I explained you in the beginning of the session today. We will make the effects that we were talking about with your photo, Tony, this morning, by using chipping fluid and engine grime. Okay, that is a very interesting color that until now I was using that only for engines, no? Because it's the typical color that appear in all engines. But I started using that in the Gundams, in the robots, to make grind effects in combination with that. And finally, I decided to apply in my tanks, achieving nice effects like in the T-14 tank Armata that I saw you in the screen. So let's start by applying this one with the airbrush. The technique of using this kind of chipping was developed by Phil Stousiskas. He's a Belgian modeler, a very talented modeler from Belgium. He started using that technique by using hairspray. In your case, maybe you doesn't use too much, but for the people who use, sorry, I am kidding. But what is the problem with the hairspray? Okay, you can go to any store and you can buy hairspray to make chipping. But where is the problem? When I go to different countries, in the beginning I was using my hairspray from Spain. But if you go to another country, the people ask you, okay, which hairspray do you use? And I say, yeah, this brand. Ah, but that one is not available in my country. So they went to the drugstore to buy hairspray from the countries, and they find that they are different and doesn't react in the same way, and the people become to find many problems. Like, for example, there are hairsprays that are anti-humidity, so those doesn't work with that technique. So thanks to those problems, I developed my own product that is acrylic, doesn't smell, always works, and doesn't affect to the base color. Just to simplify, to find a solution, a global solution, and of course works very well. There are a lighter one, and there are another more heavy to make bigger chippings. So I will use that one to make my effects. To work with that thing is really, really easy. We don't need to shake it. We just put in the airbrush and we just apply over our model. I use that technique not only to make chipping in the base color, I use also to make dust effects, mud and grime. Can you see it? Yeah. Even if it looks like have a lot of volume, it haven't. For example, if you use alcohol, when the alcohol evaporates, doesn't remain volume of the alcohol because it's really thin. It's like the same like the water. That product is also really thin, and when evaporate will be totally flat. That appear those kind of small grains is totally normal. What I recommend you to do is apply one coat and dry it with the airbrush, sorry. Don't use the hair dryer to accelerate the process. Never do that, never.
Why is that? Why is that?
Why? Because the heat modify the properties of almost all chemical products. While the air, only the air, the fresh air, like from the airbrush, doesn't affect the composition. So if you dry that one with the heater, with the hair dryer, probably you will have problems making the chipping later. Okay, while it is dry, I will paint that one. I recommend you to paint one coat in that direction and then change in that position and paint another coat, okay? That is the best way to paint not only the chipping fluid but all kind of paints. This is the second coat. I am drying right now with the eye. You can see that evaporates really fast. Second coat in this one. Okay, while it is drying, I will change the product. I can recover the excess of product in my airbrush and put again in the jar, which always is important. Important things that you must keep in mind when you are working with that technique, doesn't matter where. If you are making a Japanese Zero Fighter, for example, or any or a Nakajima full of scratches with the metal and all of those effects, or if you are making a German tank with a lot of chipping in the camouflage, or doesn't matter what, you must keep in mind few aspects. First, the quantity of coats that you are applying in your model of the chipping fluid. More coats, more chips will appear and bigger size. The time that you let dry the chipping fluid. If you let dry more time, less chipping will appear in your model and more difficult will be to get a big chipping areas. Sometimes it could be interesting to let dry more time in case that you want less chipping, okay? And the last aspect that you must keep in mind is the amount of color and the time that you let dry over the chipping fluid. Of course, now we must apply something over that chipping fluid, so if we let dry more time, we will achieve less chipping. If you apply a softer coat of color, you will obtain more random effects than if you apply a thick coat of color. I recommend you to try in your home with something like that. Try to paint different pieces of plastic and try to see what happens. Try to experiment by yourself, especially before you start a nice model. If you have a nice project that you want to paint, do something like that, to be sure that everything is working like you are thinking, okay?
Once you experiment with each, you'll quickly figure out that there's not so much a wrong or a right way, but there's different, like Miguel was saying, if you apply more of the chipping fluid or more or less color, you're going to get a different effect. And it's not that one is wrong or one is right. They're more appropriate for different scales, they're more appropriate for different parts of the vehicle or different subjects.
Thank you, Ian.
And a sheet of plastic like this is what, a couple of dollars? You know, you can in 1 hour you could paint a couple colors.
Okay, now I will use that color that become one of my favorite colors now for all kind of things.
So what did you clean your airbrush with just now to get the chipping fluid out?
Just water, tap water. But now I am using enamel. Be careful.
Do you clean your own paints with anything?
No, it's straight from the bottle.
From the wall?
Just shake it and use it. That is the good thing of that.
And what pressure are you spraying at approximately?
What I recommend you to use in your compressor, almost for everything, is from 1 to 1.5 atmosphere. That is around 20.
At 14 to one atmosphere is 14 psi.
Yes, okay, but because in my home it's with atmosphere, I use 1 to 1.5.
15 to 20 psi.
Okay, you know many things, not only about the valves, but also about that. You must come with me next time to another countries to help me. Well, let's go to apply the engine grime directly over my model. When you do that, don't be scared. You can cover your whole model with that color using the chipping fluid, and then you will see nice effects when we will chip with water. But don't be scared, because usually the people get scared because they are covering everything and they think that they will destroy, Okay. Of course, one more time I am exaggerating to show you how it works. Okay, because this is an enamel product, theoretically we must work that with enamel thinner. But in that case we will work with water. Give me 1 second to clean the airbrush. Okay, one more time, don't use this product right now, okay? We will use tap water. We can take an old brush or a flat brush. We can use this or that, okay? We can use this one to make vertical effects, and we can use this one for horizontal areas. Of course, I can imagine that part is a vertical one. But what happens if our model is like this and not in vertical? Then we will use that brush, the rounded one. Now the brush contains a lot of water. We can remove a bit, and we will do this over the surface. Can you see what is happening? That is a beautiful technique to make many effects in planes, in tanks. But remember that I am using water. Do you remember how I was working with the brush when I was making the streaking? Here I am using the same movements in my brush, from the top to down, and repeat.
How does that work if there's like raised detail around? You know, like if there's rivets or
much better. If you have rivets and the tiles around, the effects that you can provocate by moving the brass are incredible. It's have much more variety. It's much better if you have the tiles around. In fact, to do that in a flat surface is more boring, but anyway attractive and realistic. Of course, if I continue, I can remove everything, but it's not what I want. So I must decide when to stop, and I can dry the excess of water. Very careful. Another application, for example, we are making a plane and we have the flaps, the big flaps. We can mask around the flaps, we can apply the chipping fluid, and then we can apply that product and do it, and we will obtain a beautiful effects. Well, while it is drying, let's do the same here, but with a dash color.
If you were to do that technique, you said like on a wing, you put on the flap, you put masking tape, and you're drawing it down like you just did. Aren't you going to get a buildup of that material at the edge of the masking tape?
I understand more or less the words. Can you help me?
If you take the tape and you put it here over the flap, and you're streaking this way, he's asking, what about the buildup of streaking of paint here at that lip, at that subtle raised edge?
Imagine that. Imagine that this is the flap, okay, and this is the wing, okay.
Yeah.
We must put the mask here. We must apply the chipping fluid, and we must apply the product with more intensity here than here. Okay, so that is the external part of the flap, and this is the internal together with the wing, and the movement must be in that direction, and something like that.
Yeah, but the paint won't build up because you're removing the dried paint, right? So it's not going to accumulate up against the tape. So you're, once the grime is dried.
I thought that the tape was on the flap itself, and you're painting the wing. It's the other way around.
It's the other way. It's the other way.
The tape is on the wing.
This is supposed to be the mask.
Yeah.
So the paint doesn't accumulate together in the mask because you are working only that area. Okay, that's supposed to be the flap.
Okay.
But it's very easy to work with that. Even if something happens and you overdo or you don't like, you can go with the brush and more water and you can remove almost everything and start again. So this is why everybody can do it and you have no risk doing that. For that green piece, we will use a light dust color to see what happens. As you can see, maybe you can appreciate in the screen, that area is lighter than this one. Okay, we can do that in our tanks, for example, to create different effects. The dust will have more contrast if we apply in the dark areas. But if we want less contrast, we can do just the opposite way. Paint the light areas in the down areas of your tank and apply the dust here. So we can work in many different ways to achieve different effects. Of course, I have choose a very light color just to see the contrast. But I recommend you to create more variation. Even when we do that in a model, don't use one color for all your model. Try to use different colors for different areas. Oh, I am painting the light area. I wanted to do in this way. Okay. I am drying right now. A bit more. If you do that with acrylic, doesn't work in the same way. Only with enamel.
Why?
Because the acrylic are more elastic and flexible. But the enamel product haven't the same structure than the acrylic. So the acrylic is like when you remove your skin, when you take a lot of sun, it's very plastic, and you can remove bigger areas, and never will appear those small details in the surface. Will peel off in big blocks, in big pieces. I am talking about to make those kind of natural effects. When we are talking about normal chipping in a plane or in a tank, is another history. Then could be interesting to work with acrylics or sometimes with lacquer, because the lacquer paints like Tamiya or Mr. Hobby works in a different way than the acrylics. If someone is very boring this summer or this winter, maybe he can make a 10 or 20 different pieces like this one, trying to test different colors, different intensities, and to see what happens, no? How the product reacts in different ways with each paint. Could be very useful for other modelers. Well, I will clean the eyebrows and we will see what happens now. Okay, let's do it. One more time, water in our brush, using the flat brush. And soft movements. Note how the product reacts very fast. I will do here another movements to see what happens. Okay, so you can see the difference using our own brush and working in circles, and here just working in vertical. We can achieve different effects. And now I dry it.
Using different motions with your brush can help distinguish between vertical surfaces and horizontal surfaces. So on a vertical surface, you're going to have more of this running effect, whereas on a horizontal surface, you might get things sloshed around and moved around in more of a...
But it's interesting to see how in few seconds or minutes we can achieve a nice dusty look in our model. Even looks like a little muddy, not only dust, no? So you cannot achieve that one just using the airbrush like we made the dust long time ago, no? Just spray a little dust in the size of our tanks and that's all, no? That is something that you only can achieve in using that method. But you can see that it's really, really easy, really simple. So here we have the two examples. In dark, over the sun color we use a dark color. Over dark colors I use a lighter tone, a lighter color. Okay? Well, while it is drying...
So could you layer that now? So you put a layer of, I don't know, like a clear coat just to protect the surface and then go with another, like say you want to put a little bit of rust on top of that too. Get like pooling on a horizontal surface.
No.
Can you,
One very important thing when we are making models. Never apply any varnish coat in the end of the process. Never. And I will explain you why. When you are in the street and you see any vehicle, anything, you can observe different textures in everything around us. The textures are the satin, the matte, and the glossy. Those things are textures. To help you to understand the difference, someone have a pen here? One pen? Oh. Ah, thank you.
Need something like
Ah. Well, what is a texture? When we paint something and we apply a matte coat, a matte varnish, what we will obtain is a texture something like that. This is a side view of the surface, okay? So, oh, sorry, here. Okay, that is a matte texture. And we observe that the texture is matte because the refraction of the light came here from the sun, okay? And because the texture, the reflection spread in different directions. That effect, that optical effect, make us think that the surface is matte. But in the real thing is that the texture, if we see through the microscope, will be something like that. When we paint something satin, the satin texture is something like this. So the reflection of the light is going in less directions. And finally, if we paint something glossy, the reflection is in only one direction. This is why when we see a Ferrari or a Porsche or a nice car in a shop, in a car shop, we can see very shiny and very clear bright in some parts of the cars. It's because the surface is totally glossy. Okay, so the textures are as much important, same importance than the colors that we are using in our models. So if we paint a tank and finally we say, okay, beautiful, it's very nice, so finally I apply a matte coat to protect everything. Mistake, big mistake, because nothing outside is totally matte or totally glossy or totally satin. always you can see different textures. For example, in the Ferrari example, the rubber from the tires will be satin for sure. Some parts, maybe from fabrics inside the interior or something like that, will be matte. And another parts, like the chromes, like the body of the car, will be glossy. Okay? If you see a tank, the same thing happens. Nothing is totally flat in a tank. Someone is a tanker? Someone was in the army driving a tank? You? You? Okay. Maybe you doesn't take care when you are inside the tank because you are worried for another aspects. But when I enter in a tank, inside a tank, I observe that many components are glossy, another are satin, and another are matte. In everything, even outside of the tank also. For example, the N-84 tanks from Yugoslavia, the one used in the Balkan Wars, the tank that was fighting was totally glossy like a Ferrari. Totally glossy. It's incredible how terrible are the Serbians painting the tanks. It was ugly, so glossy. It's true, but in another hand, if we observe, for example, some American tanks in Afghanistan or Iraq, some of them are totally flat, but some components are still satin and other ones are still glossy. So we must remember that when we are making models. So if we paint our models and we are applying different effects, those different effects will provide to our model a huge variety of different textures that will make our model more real. Remember, there are two important things when we are making models: textures and colors. And until now, the people only take care about colors, not about textures. So try to keep your model with the differences that provide you the different effects of the rust, of the chipping, of the matte, of the dust. For example, a good example. We are making a Panther III in Africa Corps. We can paint in sun color. Nice, right? And now we want to apply dust because it's in the desert. So we apply dust in our model over the dust color of the tank. If finally we apply a matte coat to everything, how the hell we will see the difference between the dust and the tank color? Come on. How we will see the difference if everything is matte?
And oil and fuel.
Yes, so the way is to leave the tank in a satin tone, in a satin texture, while the dust is totally matte. And the spectator, the visitor that will see your model in a model contest will understand the difference. Oh, this is an Africa Corps tank in the desert because have a lot of accumulation of dust around the turret, in the fenders. This is the way how to create the effects. Okay? So avoid a final coat of varnish. When we can apply the varnish? Just after put the decals, for example. We paint the base color of a model, we can put modulation or not, then we put the decals, and then we can apply a satin coat to all your tank. And then is when we will start working with the filters, with the washes, with the streaking effects, with the oils, with the matte, with the dust, with the grease, and we will obtain a beautiful and very realistic model, full of different effects, different aspects. Okay? That answers your question?
Is there something you can put on though to protect the model?
To protect against your children, for example, or against the cat or the dog?
I'm a model railroader and I got stuff is outside.
Oh, okay. The railroad modelers are another history. Okay, they are like an exception, because they need to play with them, they need to touch them, and there are another resources to work with them. For example, I like to paint the trains because I am fanatic of the trains. Nobody knows that. Please keep the secret. But when I paint the trains, the wagon or locomotives, I like steam locomotives. I paint everything with acrylics, using the alcohol to blend the colors over the plastic, directly over the plastic. So I can achieve many effects, and when I let dry, even if I touch it, the color doesn't disappear. If you are using only pigments, for example, then you will have a problem, because as soon as you touch your trains, you will remove the pigments. So this is why we must find another alternatives. And to use acrylics and blend them with alcohol could be a good idea.
Do a workshop like that. Just wear a mask so we don't know your secret.
No, maybe in the future we can do something about trains because I love that. I love that.
That would be great.
But anyway, most of you are making tanks. You don't need to protect them against anything outside. There are no risks, no danger for your models if nobody touches them. Okay, if you want to play with them, then we have again one problem. But I think that all of you just put the model in a diorama or in a wooden base, and that's all. And you put inside a cabinet, in a showcase, and nobody touch it. So why we must protect our model with a varnish coat? For example, I have paint models with pigments without any kind of fixer or something similar many years ago, and they still have the pigments over the tank. Nobody remove it. And I bring my models to every places. I hey, look that, it's very nice. And I bring my models to all places in the world and stay, the pigments stay in their place. So don't be worried for that. If you apply the pigments in the right way, in the right place, will be not a problem. Of course, if you apply pigment here, in that surface, that's supposed to be clean because the crew of the tank are manipulating continually, then you are applying the pigment in a wrong place. But my pigment is around the tiles, in those areas, and even if I touch it, I cannot remove it, because it's inside and it's protected by the tiles. So I am creating a real aspect, like the real hair and dust is working over any surface in a real tank. Okay? Well, and all of this was because the varnish coat, no? I get very mad with that. No, because it's a pity, no, that many people do that. They paint very nice, a lot of effects, and finally they apply the terrible matte varnish coat to everything, and you say, oh no, please, you destroy everything. Also, the textures, the different textures, give us extra information. For example, the metal is glossy, satin, or matte. Usually, more or less satin. The water must be glossy. The stone, one stone, the rocks must be totally matte. So, if we use that information in our models, we will be more successful when we are making something. Many times we do something, we enter in the contest and we fail, and we are upset. The people doesn't understand my modeling. The people doesn't understand what I made. No, you made wrong. That's so. It's so easy. The people are not wrong. You are wrong because you are using the wrong tools. You are using a wrong language. For example, you can understand me more or less, but if now, si empiezo a hablar en castellano, nadie me va a entender porque estoy usando un idioma que desconocéis. I am using another language that you cannot understand, right? Nobody can understand me. I am using a different language. The tools, the techniques are a language of communication. We can communicate to other people through our techniques in our models. But if we make something wrong, the other people, the receptor, will be not able to understand what you are doing. Can you understand? So if we do something and it's not accepted in a contest, if we fail in the contest, it's because maybe we used the wrong language of communication. Okay?